The world is full of noise, and all too often, that noise attempts to drown out the message of hope that moms so desperately need to hear.
It is our calling to help you reach this level of freedom, to understand who you were created to be, and to walk fully in your purpose. From daily routines to slaying giants, we're going to talk about things that matter, help you find a balance that works for you, and tackle mindsets that hold you back.
We craft each episode to speak to a specific challenge in motherhood, leaving you feeling inspired and equipped with tools to make changes that will propel you on the path to your calling. We are about purpose, identity, and freedom. I'm Dr. Bayless.
And I'm Jackie Bailey. And this is Point of Decision.
I'm so excited to talk to you about the point of decision. So what point of decision is it's that point where you know that there's a decision that needs to be made. And there's a couple of levels of this point of decision and what it means. So on the grand scale, the point of decision can be major decisions, such as, should I start a business? Should I go back to school? Should I start working out? Those kind of things are decisions that requires an action. You have to have some discipline behind it. That there has to be some reasons that you are going to make that decision. And the point of decision is when you come to that place and say, yes, this is what I'm going to do, and this is the direction that it's going to take me. And it changes the trajectory of your life. And so when you make that decision, it is when action comes from it. That is the point of decision. If you think you made a decision, but then there's no action behind it, that's before the point of decision. Or the decision that you made was not to do that thing. So what is it that you need to do in order to make the decision? And one of those things is to evaluate your life. If you have something that you want to do and you have a decision that you are trying to make, let's take going to the gym as an example. Because right now, I want to go to the gym. I want to get up in the morning and I have it laid out in my head. I'm going to get to the gym by 8 o'clock. I'm going to get the kids into the child watch. I have 2 hours to work out, and then I can leave. And then it takes me 20 minutes to get there, 20 minutes to get home. So therefore, I need to leave the house by 7:35 and then get them to the gym, to the child watch, get them set up and ready to go, be in my workout clothes, get my workout done, take my shower, sit in the sauna, whatever I'm going to do at the gym, pick the kids up, and then 20 minutes home. So I'm home by 10:30. And that is a very good, realistic goal if it fits my life. And so the reason I haven't made the decision to start yet is because I have to think about some things. Is this going to fit into my life, into the schedule that I have? Is this going to be something that I can actually carry out? And so when I'm evaluating those kinds of things, I have to think about, am I going to be able to carry this through? So if you are in the process of making a decision that's major, you have to think about, am I going to be able to carry this through? And a lot of times we don't. A lot of times we just say, okay, I've made the decision. I'm going to jump off the boat. And I just forgot my life raft and now I'm drowning. Or I jumped off the boat too soon, so I'm swimming back to shore, or I'm getting back on the boat. And therefore, we've made this decision that really wasn't a decision, and it creates a habit of indecision. So in that, we have to look at our life and say, why do I keep not following through with what I thought was my decision? And it may be that you're not ready to make that decision, and that's okay. So therefore, you're not failing. And it may be that you are ready and it's a discipline issue. But that's a very different thing if it's a discipline issue versus it doesn't fit into my life right now issue. Because right now, I haven't started going to the gym, even though I feel like I've made the decision I'm going to the gym. And I'm going to work out every day for at least 45 minutes. And I have a 2-hour window that I can do that. I'm not going to lock myself into working out for 2 hours yet, because I have an 8-week-old baby and it's not time for me to go full force into a gym routine. But there's that. I have a 2-month-old baby. So with a 2-month-old baby and an almost 2-year-old toddler, where does this fit into life and what is most important? What are my priorities and why haven't I started going to the gym? Well, one of the reasons I haven't started going to the gym is because I haven't caught up on my sleep yet. And with a 2-month-old, I'm up at all hours of the night, and I feel like it would be a little unrealistic to expect myself to get up and be in the car by 7:30 to get to the gym by 8 when I haven't even had a full night of sleep. And I have to evaluate what's more important here, me getting to the gym right now or me getting some rest. And in this season of my life, rest is more important than the exercise I'm going to get from the gym. So therefore, I do some workouts at home. I'll take the babies for a walk in the stroller around our property, and I get sunshine at the same time. The kids get outside. It's a really good compromise to what I really ultimately want to do. And I do want to take them out for walks, but I really want to get into the gym. It's just not there yet. And so I get to give myself some grace. I get to say, this is a decision that I want to make, but I'm just not there yet. So I'm going to evaluate week by week, am I ready yet? And if I'm not ready, that's okay. At some point, I will be ready because I'm consciously deciding to make this a priority in my life. And my health is a very important priority. So that is an example of one of those major decisions that we make, and it determines the trajectory. Like, I am going to take control of my health, and I have made this decision, and now I'm going to the gym every day. But also, I'm also deciding, no, I'm not going to the gym every day yet. I'm going to do something else. Like, I downloaded beachbody.com on demand so that I can pull up any workout at any time and just go for it in my house. Oh, the kids are down for a nap. I'm going to put on my tennis shoes and I'm going to rock it out for a little bit. And if I feel ready to do that, I can do that. And then I can schedule that kind of workout into my day. So I'm still moving my body. My health is still a priority, but it fits into my season. And the seasons of motherhood are short. So I have to keep in my mind the grace I get for having a newborn season. She won't be newborn for very long. And then I will have a full night's sleep. And I can get up with them in the morning, give them breakfast, get them in the car, and they're going to enjoy going and playing with other kids. So that's a very practical example of a point of decision. Now, there is the small points of decision that we sometimes are not even aware of, and we make those decisions unconsciously. And this is the point where we come face to face with how are we going to behave? How are we going to react? Are we ready to respond to a situation? And this is a spiritual and internal battle that we face every minute of every day of what decision am I going to make here? And a lot of times we give ourselves over to reaction and we give ourselves over to the subconscious mind without renewing it. And we're going to talk a little bit about renewing the mind in just a minute. But what I want you to see here is in a moment of, let's say, anger, you're angry at your child for coloring on the wall. Say they're 3 years old and they just colored on the wall and you're like, oh my gosh, I just painted that and the crayons are not going to come off easy. Why did you color on the wall? So you have to think about, what is my decision here? Do you just react and punish them, or do you talk to them about it and say, hey, why did you color on the wall? I'm not saying punishment is not okay. I'm saying, what decision are you going to make? And then you can choose to get angry and react in anger, or you can choose to say, I realize that this 3-year-old has no idea that that's not a blank canvas for the world to see their artwork, and then needs a little direction in another way, and then punishment looks different. You can say, okay, because you colored on the wall, you're going to lose your crayons. Or are you going to react in anger? And that's a simple example. That's an easy one to really keep calm with, usually. But sometimes we are just in a very stressed state and we are pushed over the edge much easier. An example of this is my toddler was not napping very good. He's still not napping very good. The new baby came and sleep regression came, and I don't know. It just, nap time has become a battle. And so this one particular day, I was still actually 9 months pregnant with my daughter, and he had already started the sleep regression thing and did not want to take his nap. And he needed it. He was so tired. He was acting out. It was time for a nap, and I needed a break. And I was ready for him to take a nap. He was not ready for him to take a nap. And what happened was I was already in such a stressed state that getting him down for a nap was even more stressful because he was fighting me so hard. And there's the idea of the cry it out method, which I think is great for some kids, but for this toddler, it doesn't work. And I decided to try it, and all it did was stress me more. It stressed him more. I tried to let him cry it out. I had to go back in there, and we both ended up crying. We both ended up in this state of stress, and I wound up acting out, not towards him, but I got myself into such a state. I went outside and just screamed. I was like, ah, my gosh, help. And I found myself resisting God's help. I found myself resisting being okay. And this was a decision point that I realized later, wow, why did I get so upset? And it was because at that point of decision, I chose anger. At that point when I could have said, okay, let me try to get into my rational mind here, look above the circumstances and see what's going on. Why is he not napping, and what is it worth? And maybe just let him stay up today. What's the worst that could happen? He gets tired, it's kind of a rough day, and then he goes to bed at night and we start over the next day. I mean, that's worth it versus us both getting angry and us both crying the rest of the day and being in this state of chaos for hours. And it was that decision moment where, unfortunately, I chose the enemy's way versus God's way. And what God showed me was those little moments are the moments that create traumas in our heart. And we've made the wrong decision, and we've made agreements with the enemy, and we didn't even mean to. But here we are now with problems, shame, or guilt, or all these things that come from siding with the enemy. And we never want to admit that we made an agreement with the enemy. That is not something we want to admit because it's awful. But here we do it every day. We are all sinners, and we do this kind of thing. And how do we get to the point where we can stop and say, no, I'm not going to side with the enemy. I'm going to choose Jesus here. And what the Lord showed me in that moment was I had a very specific spot in that day where he presented to me a way out. And instead of taking that way out, I kept going, trying to get my son Ezra to sleep. And because of that, I pushed the boundary, and I wound up getting angry. And then I wound up reacting in anger, which is awful. And then I felt awful the rest of the day. It took me the rest of the day to get over it. I had shame because I screamed. I threw a couple of things to try to break them so that I could get my aggression out on an inanimate object rather than a baby, because he doesn't deserve that. And I knew it. And I was at least not giving over that much to anger that I was going to hurt my baby. But some people do. And it's this moment where you're just like, oh my goodness, I'm carrying with me this condemnation, this shame. And it's all that spiritual battle that we face as mothers, because our kids are going to try us. They try to push those boundaries, and they want to see how we're going to react. And our reactions affect them. For the rest of their life, they affect them. So we have to learn how to make those decisions in the moment of chaos. And it's basically choosing Jesus. It's as simple as that. So what the Lord showed me is when you feel that wall and you feel that resistance, you're pushing up against some sort of resistance and you're at the precipice of falling over. He showed me that the wall is a mirror. So if we look at the wall and we just look directly into it, we're looking into the mirror, which is reflecting our circumstance. So we don't get above the circumstance. We're just continuing to look into the mirror, and we're looking around us. So we need to stop and say, what am I seeing? I'm seeing what's behind me, not what's in front of me. So I'm going to come up above this short wall that's a mirror and see above it so that I can see what's beyond the circumstance. And it takes Jesus to do that. We can't necessarily do that on our own. in those depleted states. When we get depleted and we get stressed, it's much more difficult to rise up above the mirror and see beyond the circumstance. And that's what it takes to make that decision. The decision is, I choose you, Jesus, and I am going to rise up above the circumstance so that you can show me what's beyond this. And then the strategy will come. And I have a positive example of this when my oldest son was about 6 years old and we were homeschooling and we were talking about math and he was getting so frustrated. And it was getting to that point where we were both getting depleted. I was trying to teach him. He was shutting down and I wanted to help him so much, but I couldn't get through to him because he had shut down on this level. No new information was coming through. And so I had that moment of decision. Do I keep going and pushing and get upset? Or do I choose Jesus and find a way to look above the circumstance and ask him what needs to happen? And in that case, I chose Jesus and I said, okay, Caden, let's take a step back. Let's take a break. Go get you some water, get you a snack. I'm going to go outside for a little bit and I'm going to talk to the Lord. So I went outside and said, okay, God, I need help with this 6-year-old. He is struggling and I need to know what to do to help because everything I say is bouncing off the wall. It's just not getting through the filters of his mind at 6 years old. So God gave me a strategy. Honestly, I can't remember what it was, or I would tell you, but he gave me this strategy. I waited for a little while. We played for a little while. We got a reset. And then we started again in this new way. It was a new strategy. And it meant everything. The walls came down and he started learning. He started grasping the concept and he was no longer hitting that wall. It was a paradigm shift for him. So in order to walk out these small points of decision, we need paradigm shifts. And paradigm shifts shape our thought processes and the filters that we see the world through. So a lot of times it takes a discipline of recreating habits and retraining our thoughts. In Romans, it talks about, in Romans 12:2, it says, no longer be conformed to the way of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And we talk about this mind renewing thing quite a bit, but I think sometimes we neglect to really talk about how we renew our mind and the way that we renew our mind and what it means to take every thought captive unto the obedience of Christ. And that's what the point of decision is. It's learning how to take every thought captive unto the obedience of Christ and side with Jesus, make that decision, change the trajectory of the way that you're going. Are you going to go over the precipice into anger and react? Or are you going to have a new strategy and a renewed sense of life and purpose and move forward in that direction? And it's a big difference, and it's really easy to go in the negative direction. And we have to take that moment to think about those things. So to take every thought captive, basically what that means is understanding that every thought that comes into your mind, not all of them are your own. We have an enemy. We have an adversary. So taking the thoughts captive that come to your mind, basically it means evaluating it. If you are an external processor, everything that comes into your mind feels so real and it feels like truth because it's in your mind. And until you can get that thought out and evaluate it, you're not going to know whether it's true or not. Not every thought is like this, but several of the thoughts that we have come to this place that says, okay, I feel like I'm not worth anything. And I feel like I'm so mad at my husband because he never does this for me and nobody ever cares for me. And because they don't care for me, I must not be worth their time. Does that sound like something you really want to think about yourself? Does that sound like something God would say to you? Or does that sound like something the enemy would say to you? So when you have those feelings, you have to step back and say, why am I feeling like this? And no, that is not how I feel. That is taking the thought captive and evaluating it according to whether Jesus would say that to you or not. And if the answer is no, then you take it captive and you throw it at the feet of Jesus and say, enough, devil, get away from me. By the blood of Jesus, that is not how I feel about myself. The truth is, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Charm is deceitful and beauty is fleeting, but the woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. I fear the Lord. I am to be praised. And you go with the thoughts of the promises that the Lord has for you. So the obedience of Christ is taking this to him and asking him what he says and then following through with it. And there's several ways that you can verbally process. You can have someone who you're close to listen. You can record yourself and then listen to yourself. You can journal, and even writing is a form of external processing. And then you can take those thoughts and you can look at them, and then you can evaluate them a little bit better than just thinking on them. And then you learn how to think on what is good and what is right and what is praiseworthy. And then you take those things, and that fuels the paradigms that you see the world through and the filters that you process the world through, which then changes your ability to make the decisions in the moments when we feel like we're held captive. And once we get freedom in those moments where we've made agreements with the enemy in the past, and every agreement that we make with the enemy gets stronger when we make those same agreements over and over again. If you say, I'm just an angry person, and then you react in anger, it's getting strengthened. Rather than saying, I am not an angry person. I am a person of peace because I have the Spirit of God inside of me. And I just acted outside of my character in that moment. And I do not agree with the enemy that I am an angry person. And so next time you say, okay, I'm feeling this anger feeling. That is okay. I will not sin in my anger. God, what do I do? So you're taking the thoughts of anger and you're evaluating them and you're giving it to the Lord and you're changing the trajectory of your decision. That is the point of decision, and it changes everything. So we will dive into taking every thought captive into the obedience of Christ and all of those things and what it looks like to help process externally and all of those things that help us to make these decisions better in another episode. But right now, I just wanted you to understand what it means to look at those decisions, look at those moments, and decide where that point of your decision is or was and where it will be in the future. Because you do have the control, because the Spirit of God is in you, and He has given you self-control, and He has given you a renewed mind. And this is the process of renewing your mind. That's how you do it. You don't look at what the world says about you. You don't look what the enemy says about you anymore. Now you look at the fuel that God gives you for the fire He placed inside of you. And that is how you're going to start changing the path that you're on and solidifying the path that the Lord has placed you on. And I'm so proud of you for taking the time to think about these things. I want you to take a minute and journal your thoughts about decisions that you have made, whether they were reactive and a subconscious decision, or whether they were proactive and responsive as a conscious decision. And how did you make that decision? How did you know which way to go? And how did you overcome the feelings that you had in that moment? So your action step is to think about the best way that you can process externally. And this is for internal and external processors. Is it going to be a voice recording? Is it going to be journaling? Is it going to be calling a friend? And I want you to come up with something that you can do any moment that you're feeling a little bit out of control. And I want you to start speaking it out into your recorder or writing it out on paper and looking at it, evaluating it for the truth, and deciding if that is something that the Lord has brought to you or if it's something the enemy has brought to you, or if it's just something that you're so accustomed to that your own subconscious keeps telling you that. And then I want you to journal what's true or speak what's true. Don't worry about the enemy hearing your thoughts. He hears your thoughts anyway. But the blood of Jesus is stronger. The battlefield is in the mind, and the blood of Jesus big enough to cover all of it. It's enough to cover every thought, negative or positive. It's enough to cover every situation that you could possibly find yourself in. And I want you to take this thought with you and start evaluating your decisions, and in your moments, become aware. Start changing your paradigms. Start studying and finding the verses that will help you create affirmations out of verses. Tell yourself, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. God told me so in His Word. Find those scriptures that speak directly to your heart. take some time to do that, because that is going to change everything in your mind for you. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you for being brave, for having your mind and heart open to receive what we've shared.
We pray that it touches you so deeply that you are transformed from the inside out.
If you've loved spending time with us as much as we have with you, we have great news for you.
We have a tribe of other moms just like you that are committed to living life to the fullest and are a source of encouragement, support, and love.
Go to Point of Decision on Facebook now to join our growing tribe.
I'm Dr. Leslie Bayless.
And I'm Jackie Bailey.
We love you.
We're praying for you.
And we are looking forward to spending more time with you on Point of Decision.